Steve Gamache here once again with a Chef Knives to Go quick look product review, and this time we are looking at the Yahiko Sanjo Shidogame or white number 2 Nashiji Gyuto 210mm knife, so quite a bit to unpack there. So this has a 3-layer construction, and the center hard core cutting edge steel is Shidogame or white paper number 2 reactive high carbon steel. The heat treat on that should be in the neighborhood of 61, 62 Rockwell. The cladding is soft reactive iron, and you can see I've been using this knife a fair amount, and it's got a definite patina going. I've been cutting some steak and some different things, so you can see kind of a bluish tint to it. Even looks more blue in daylight, which is a cooler color than tungsten, which I'm under right now. But it definitely takes on a nice patina, and you can see the kind of almost blends that a little bit different with the patina on it. Anyway, it's a neat look, but it is an all reactive blade, as you can see. So there's no stainless, there's no cladding on this with stainless layers of any kind. So it's an all reactive blade. This particular one does not have any kind of lacquer on it either. So it's just pretty much just kind of naked and ready to go right out of the box. The weight and dimensions on these are going to vary a little bit from knife to knife. And so this one is 153 grams or 5.4 ounces. So it's a pretty light knife despite the size. The edge length is about 214 millimeters on the edge for this particular one, or about 8.4 inches from the tip all the way back to the back of the heel. This is called the chin. And the overall length is about 367 millimeters or 14.5 inches. These are fairly thick coming out of the handle, but they thin out nicely very quickly. And so I've got about 3.5 millimeter thickness above the back of the blade, but halfway down I measured 2.1. And then you can see it just pretty much holds that until you hit the grind, which is a fairly generous grind on these. It goes fairly high on the blade, and so the tip itself is nice and thin and really flies through stuff. The performance on this blade is simply excellent. It's almost kind of like a laser type performance to it without being a quote laser. It's thin at the edge. The grinds are clean on these, very straight blade. Flattish heel section we'll see. Excellent performance, fairly stiff on it. Front half of the blade has a little more flex as it does thin out. The blade height is about 48 millimeters, so it's pretty generous in height, and then it's a very narrow neck, as you can see, which goes into the handle, so there's enough distance on this particular install for your finger right there, and so you've got loads and loads and loads of clearance, so it nestles there very nicely for a pinch grip. This handle is a burnt chestnut D-shaped handle, right hand kind of style with a buffalo horn ferrule. The lightness here is simply a result of sanding down into that, so it's a really smooth transition right there. Plus I think that looks really pretty darn cool in my opinion. It's when you get it a little ways away, it really adds a nice aesthetic to the color scheme on this. The handle install is very tight and well executed, so it's a pretty nice handle. I'm a lefty, and D-shaped handles bother me not at all. So if you're a lefty, don't worry about the D-shaped handle in my personal opinion, because if you're doing this, the D-shape sitting out here, and it's not even really part of the equation. If you're a right-hander, it does help kind of nestle that and give you a little bit of an index on your pinch grip, but if you're a lefty, personally, unless you put your finger here, for me, it doesn't really affect anything with this type of grip. If you're a racket gripper, some people actually, they're lefties, like their finger right there, their thumb, kind of for an index point. So anyway, circumference on this was about 72, 73 millimeters here where the two materials meet, and fairly thin handle, fairly long handle. It's still pretty light though, so that brings the balance point to about right there, which is just a, you know, for me, almost right on the money for a pinch grip. And so it's a very neutral, light feel on it, despite the blade having some, you know, decent size to it. Let's get a beauty shot on this guy. What kind of combo we're going to do here. So you can see a pretty generous grind, and you can see the finish on it's kind of vertical machine finish. You've got the kudauchi or blacksmith finish on it, and it has a Nashiji, or kind of it's actually pretty smooth for Nashiji, but it's got kind of a pebble, kind of a smooth finish on it. It's not as much like textured as you'll see on some knives. And then again, you've got a pretty generous grind that goes down into the core steel at the edge there. I've been using this again, so it's got some patina on it that's going to occur naturally as you use it. But it's a very nice looking blade. The top does show you the 3-layer construction, so the cladding does not cover the top. So if you look pretty closely, I can get this to focus in here, you'll see the 3 layers there if you look carefully. They've got a little bit of relief on the corners of the spine, and they've got a little bit of relief on the choil as well. So it's pretty comfortable out of the box. They've got a little bit of a lip kind of up the choil a little bit. If I were to keep this knife, which I'm thinking about it because it's pretty doggone nice. I'm kind of a sucker for really good performance, but I'd probably kind of clean that up just a touch, but it wouldn't take much at all. It's fairly stiff, a little bit of flex in the front half, but not much, but it's definitely fairly stiff towards the back, yet it's light. Performance is simply excellent on this thing. Again, it's delightful to use. You've got some chiseled or engraved kanji on the right side of the blade. As you would hold it, that's the right side of the blade. And the left side of the blade does not have anything on it, just the kind of natural finish, and then the kuruuchi there. What else? Let's see. Out of the box edge, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's pretty sharp out of the box. Shidogami white number 2 will get very, very sharp and is a pleasure to sharpen. So this is a very easy to sharpen blade. It's not superb edge retention, but it's so easy to sharpen. It's kind of fun. And you'll feel like a champ because the steel sharpens up great. So here is the edge profile. It's got a little bit of a flat section at the back. You can see it kind of flows into a stop there, so you can get some chopping done at the back. The tip's kind of mid-ish way, so I'm getting up in there for where the tip wants to start digging in, so you got lots of ground clearance there. You could even touch that tip up a little in the last millimeter or two when you sharpen it, maybe upsweep it a little if you really like more ground clearance. But the profile is really smooth, it flows nicely into that back stop, and so this will accommodate pretty much most of the technique. So it's not a pure chopper, but you can definitely use that back half of the blade to do some nice chopping. So this was just a really well executed package. It looks neat. It's got very, very good performance, well crafted, yet it's got enough craftsmanship and kind of character to it to not be cookie cutter. Everyone's going to be unique. So really interesting package. So this is the Yahiko Sanjo Shidogami or white number 2 Nashiji Gyuto 210mm knife.